Now to a high-profile fraud case that's literally happening in front of us in real time. The Justice Department charging Charlie Javice with defrauding JPMorgan out of $175 million. Javice is the founder of college financial planning platform Frank, the 31-year-old, accused of, quote, falsely and dramatically inflating the number of customers that the company had in a scheme to fraudulently induce JPMorgan to acquire the startup in 2021.
An alumnus of the esteemed Wharton School, founder of two $1 million enterprises. Can you really expect someone with such sterling credentials to fool someone? We cannot, and neither could the biggest investment bank in the world, JPMorgan Chase. Guess what? The largest investment bank in the world was duped by a 31-year-old woman into paying $175 million for a bogus Excel sheet of data. In any case, it wasn't entirely their fault. The mastermind, Charlie Javice, who was included in Forbes' 2019 list of 30 under 30, had a scheme that was so flawless it was able to fool the world's greatest minds. Join us as we look into the story of a 31-year-old startup founder who could dupe the New York-based international financial services organization, JPMorgan Chase Co, with her fraud scheme. JPMorgan Chase would never have imagined that Javice was raised in wealthy Westchester County, New York, where she rode horses and went to the French-American School of New York. Her mother was a life coach and a former teacher, and her father worked at a hedge fund. Javice was given admission to Wharton at the University of Pennsylvania, where she studied finance and law and graduated in 3 years. In 2011, Javice founded PoverUp while still in college. She aimed to create a grassroots student movement, an online platform that would use microfinance for social good and support initiatives to end poverty with the click of a mouse. PoverUp sought support from investors, social incubators, and esteemed universities like Harvard and Chicago Booth, as well as donations and prospective collaborations. Numerous PoverUp internal emails examined by Forbes show that Javice and PoverUp management made claims that she had dinner with impact investor Bobby Turner in New York, had a meeting with Josh Kopelman, co-founder of First Round Capital, in Philadelphia, and had attended the Harvard Leadership Institute. Javice was included in publications like Fast Company's list of the most creative people, and she was also the subject of sensational articles in those publications. A 2012 interview with the coveted Thiel Fellowship, a 2-year program that provides students with a $100,000 stipend to launch a business or conduct research, came about as a result of the hype around PoverUp. When competing against people like future Figma co-founder Dylan Field, Javice took herself out of the running to win because she wanted to stay in school. According to a Tumblr post shared by the PoverUp team, Michael Eisenberg, a partner at Aleph and a significant Frank investor, also stated in a 2022 Medium post honoring the JPMorgan acquisition that she was selected to be a Thiel Fellow but turned it down. She could not put PoverUp into action because it was a lofty idea. 2013 saw Javice complete her studies at the Wharton School, and she immediately got to work on the edtech company that would eventually become Frank. When it came to developing an alternative to the FICO credit score, she aided lenders in determining whether and how much money to loan potential borrowers. The original plan in 2015 was to construct a job search application, then known as Tapped. She hit a significant speed bump quickly. A new co-founder and CTO based in Israel was hired by Javice in 2016 as part of a move to the next phase of the company. But the following year, Omacy filed a lawsuit against Javice and Frank for failing to pay salaries and for allegedly breaking a commitment to provide 10% of Frank's stocks once he joined. In June 2021, a Tel Aviv court ordered Javice and Frank to pay him $35,000, which is 120,000 Israeli shekels, despite the fact that both of them denied any wrongdoing. Okay, now let's look back into Frank, which Javice launched in 2017. The startup Frank was created with the purpose of assisting students with their applications for financial aid for college. Javice founded Frank with the lofty goal of becoming an Amazon for higher education. And because of her Ivy League education, she was able to secure the backing of notable investors, including Aleph, Chegg, Reach Capital, Gingerbread Capital, and SWAT Equity Partners, as well as billionaire investor Mark Rowan. Her company proposal had the air of doing good because it promised to make it simpler and faster for customers to complete financial aid forms, while also giving needy youngsters billions in savings. Then, just for good measure, it added a .org web address. While many individuals were remaining at home during the pandemic, Frank started advertising amazing prices for online courses that awarded real college credits. By streamlining the process of applying for federal student aid, Frank quickly grew to be a profitable business, or Javice made it appear successful, helping about 5 million students. Javice was listed on Forbes 30 Under 30 list for finance in 2019 as a result of her accomplishments. JPMorgan Chase took notice of her success. The big bank couldn't resist the data that the small business had to provide. Frank just so happened to have the contract information for 5 million college students, who are JPMorgan Chase's target market. So, with such important information possessed by the corporation, JPMorgan Chase couldn't pass up the chance to buy it. The bank was ignorant that the business was founded on a foundation of lies. Then, how did JPMorgan Chase Co. ultimately realize that it might have been duped? After the acquisition was finalized in January 2022, the bank made the decision to send a campaign to spam Frank's users, most likely to persuade them to purchase a financial product that would bring in some revenue for the bank. It then sent emails to 400,000 users at random from the list Frank gave as part of the due diligence process. But the campaign failed miserably. Just 28% of the emails were actually delivered. JPMorgan Chase campaigns typically have a high delivery rate of 99%. Even worse, only 1.1% of the emails that were delivered were opened, compared to an average JPMorgan Chase campaign, 30%. JPMC smelled something fishy at that point. They started an inquiry, and it was able to access all of Charlie Javice's previous emails. The fraud suddenly appeared in all of its splendor. So what did Javice allegedly do when JP Morgan demanded evidence during due diligence? Javice asked for assistance from her co-founder Amar. According to Fortune, they both went to Frank's director of engineering first and requested that he produce synthetic data, fake consumer information produced by computer algorithms. He felt uneasy, just like any other person with a conscience would, and inquired as to whether the request was legal before ultimately declining. He declined, therefore Javice and Amar had to find someone who was not only skilled with data, but also eager to engage in immoral behavior. Javice requested the phony data of 4 million users from a data science professor she knew at a college in New York. The professor concurred, and he was prepared to offer creative solutions to Javice and Amar's data issues. An estimated 4.3 million consumers' names, emails, and birthdays had to be collected for Frank by the data science professor. Javice and the professor corresponded through emails several times, going over the specifics of the false information. They took considerable care to make their fake data appear as credible as possible. The names of fake pupils appeared first. According to reports, the professor suggested a technique for identifying genuine student names in email to Javice. The model would verify that none of the names were authentic by testing first and last names independently. Physical addresses followed next. Making plausible addresses turned out to be a tremendous pain. According to Javice, the professor admitted he had problems obtaining dependable addresses. When he asked her if she thought he should try make them up, she said, "I just wouldn't want the street to not exist in the state." But Javice paid him $18,000 for all of the false information. She was able to recover $135 million from the JPMorgan Chase exchange. Javice had misinterpreted to JPMC that Frank had more than 4.25 million users, when in fact it had just 3,000. JPMorgan completed the $175 million purchase of Frank with no knowledge of the purported problems, but they quickly came to the conclusion that something was wrong after running a test marketing campaign to Frank's clientele. After her arrest on April 3rd, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York warned business owners who misrepresent how their companies were doing that they would face consequences for putting their greed above the law. Now, how in the world a large bank like JPMC missed the warning signs before forking over all the cash is beyond me. Who carried out all the necessary research to ensure the veracity of Javice's claims? Let's simply say that Javice outperformed the powerful banking institution and disregarded its due diligence procedure. Not surprisingly, this was not the first time Javice had lied about the size of her company. Frank was accused of deceiving the kids by the Department of Education in 2017. Its website's domain in 2017 was frankafsa.com, which had a confusing resemblance to the Department of Education's website, fafsa.gov, and was thus likely to cause applicants confusion. In order to trick the applicants, it only attempted to pose as a Department of Education associate. So, as you can see, this wasn't the first time this 31-year-old had pulled a ruse. Fake it until you make it though, as the saying goes.